In November of 1922, an archaeological expedition led by Howard Carter and funded by Lord Carnarvon achieved a feat long considered impossible in the shifting sands of the Valley of the Kings. They breached the burial chamber of Tutankhamun. Inside sat a room packed with enough gold, statues, and historical artifacts to fill an archive, untouched for over 3,000 years. The world was captivated, but the triumph was brief. Just 6 weeks after entering the burial chamber, Lord Carnarvon died. The press immediately linked the death to the excavation. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the mind behind Sherlock Holmes, suggested that ancient Egyptian priests had left elemental guardians to strike down anyone who disturbed the royal tomb. This idea became so entrenched that it persists in modern academia. To this day, researchers publish papers attempting to calculate if radioactive uranium or radon gas inside the tombs could explain the deaths of early Egyptologists. The human brain prefers a supernatural explanation over a vacuum. Because the discovery and the death happened so close together, the public built a bridge between them and called it a curse. To find out if that bridge is real, we have to start with the null hypothesis. This is the scientific baseline that assumes two events have no connection at all until the data proves otherwise. In 2002, researcher Mark Nelson applied the null hypothesis to the tomb. He identified 44 Westerners who were in Cairo when the burial chamber was opened. He split them into two groups, 25 people who entered the tomb and 19 who did not. The results showed no evidence of a curse. Both groups had life expectancies that were statistically identical. Howard Carter, the man who spent the most time in the tomb and personally handled the mummy, lived another 16 years and died of natural causes in his mid-60s. If the math shows the pattern is fake, it leaves us with a deeper mystery. Why is the human brain wired to believe it anyway? This is the result of apophenia, the involuntary tendency to see meaningful connections between completely unrelated events. This trait has its roots on the prehistoric savanna. Imagine you are standing in the tall grass when you hear a sudden rustle nearby. You can interpret that sound two ways. Assume it is the wind, or assume it is a lion. If you run from the wind, the mistake costs nothing, but assuming it's the wind when it's actually a lion is fatal. Evolution favored the ancestors who over-identified patterns. Apophenia isn't a glitch. It is highly successful survival software that prioritizes a false positive over a deadly oversight. Because of this survival wiring, our brains struggle to interpret true randomness. We expect random events to be evenly distributed, but reality is often clustered. We see 3 plane crashes in a week and assume they are linked, when in fact, clusters are a natural part of any random sequence. Our psychology actively fights against this reality. Research by Christian Rominger found that people who frequently spot these meaningful coincidences are also more likely to make memory mistakes. It's called a conjunction error. When we want a pattern to be true, the brain unconsciously shifts the timeline of our memories to make events appear closer than they actually were. We don't just find false patterns, we actively distort our own history to build them. Lord Carnarvon's death had a mundane biological cause. While shaving, he accidentally sliced open a mosquito bite, which led to a severe blood infection and eventually pneumonia. A blood infection is a complex, slow process. A supernatural curse is a clear, dramatic story. Our brains effectively edited the mosquito out of history because the curse satisfied the savanna-evolved need for an immediate cause and effect. This internal drive to connect dots is the same mechanism that allows us to understand the world. When we apply the scientific method to filter out the false positives, that pattern-seeking hunger is what leads us to map the genome or identify the laws of physics. The next time a bizarre coincidence occurs, look at the math and respect the null hypothesis.